The endless black of space stretched in every direction. No sound, no movement, only silence. In that silence floated a broken ship, its surface scarred by fire and impact. Pieces of shattered metal drifted around it like the remains of a battle long over. Inside the ruined vessel, dim lights flickered and faded, fighting against the darkness. Caro sat alone in the control chamber. His body felt heavy, his eyes dry, but he refused to let them close. Sleep would not help him now. The air was thin, the temperature dropping lower every hour. His ship had no power left to move, no weapons to defend itself, and only one passenger still alive. That passenger was him. He had tried everything. The engines were beyond repair. The energy core cracked, the communication system burned. Every time he pressed the keys, hoping the signal would carry through the void, only static answered him. At first he called for his people, his fleet, his family. Later he called for anyone. But days had passed, maybe weeks, and still nothing came back. Caro was young compared to most of his kind. He had joined the fleet only to learn, to explore, to see the stars. He had never thought his first voyage would end in silence and loss. His people had been proud and strong, but they had been caught unprepared. The enemy came fast, tearing through shields, breaking hulls, leaving no time for rescue. Somehow in the chaos, Caro's ship was thrown aside, wounded but not destroyed. That chance had saved him, yet left him stranded. Now the silence pressed on him like a weight. He spoke aloud just to hear a voice, even if it was only his own. "You cannot give up," he told himself. "If you are alive, then there is still a chance." But the words sounded weak and hope was fading. His hands trembled as he opened the last supply case. Inside were only 2 ration bars and a half-filled water pack. He knew they would not last. He ate slowly, though hunger pressed on him because each bite was a fight against fear. He thought of the great cities of his homeworld, the lights that filled the skies at night, the laughter of his people. He wondered if any of them still lived. The ship groaned, metal twisting under the cold. A small alarm blinked on the panel, showing another system failing. Caro pressed his forehead against the console, feeling its chill against his skin. He was tired, so tired. And yet deep inside a spark of stubbornness remained. He remembered the old stories told by the elders, stories of survival when everything seemed lost. His people believed that the stars held secrets, that no one was ever truly alone in the great expanse. Perhaps those stories were only myths. Perhaps they were more. He wanted to believe that somewhere, someone was listening. Outside the cracked window of the control chamber, he watched the stars. They looked sharp and cold, like tiny fires burning in the distance. He tried to imagine what lay beyond them. Did other ships sail those far skies? Did other lives look up and wonder the same as he did now? Hours passed. Caro's eyelids grew heavier. He fought to stay awake, but his body demanded rest. He set the last working sensor to scan the void and leaned back in the chair. The hum of the failing machine was the only sound left. He thought of his mother's voice calling him home, of the river near his village, of sunlight on his face. With those memories, he drifted into uneasy sleep. The broken ship continued to float unnoticed in the vast sea of stars. But in the distance, far beyond Caro's sight, a small human vessel was crossing the border of explored space. Its scanners swept wide, searching for anything unusual. Soon they would catch the faint trace of a life signal, so weak it almost vanished. Soon the silence would no longer be complete. For now, Caro dreamed in the cold dark, unaware that his fate was about to change. The human ship Aurora moved quietly through the edge of known space. It was not a large vessel, nor was it built for war. The Aurora was a patrol ship, designed to watch the borders, guide travelers, and lend help to those in need. Its crew had grown used to silence, for this part of space was often empty. Still, they remained alert, for the void could change without warning. Captain Mira stood at the main console, her eyes steady on the star-filled screen. She had led the Aurora for many years and trusted her crew as she trusted her own hands. Around her, the bridge hummed with quiet voices and soft beeps of machines. The crew worked with calm, though their minds carried the same question. Would today be as silent as the last, or would something break the stillness of the border? The answer came when the scanner officer, a young man named Raylan, leaned forward in surprise. His screen showed a faint signal, almost too weak to notice. He checked the system twice, then called out, "Captain, I have a life reading." "It is distant, but it is there." The bridge grew quiet. A single life signal in empty space was not common. Mira stepped closer, her voice calm. Confirm the reading. Raylan nodded, adjusting the controls. It is real, Captain. Weak, very weak, but steady. One life form. The source is a drifting vessel not far from our course. The crew exchanged quick glances. To find a living being alone in the void meant danger or tragedy. Mira studied the display. Set a course. Bring us closer, but keep shields ready. We do not know what we will find. The engines shifted with a low hum as the Aurora changed direction. Hours passed as the ship cut across the stars. During that time, the crew prepared. Engineers checked the medical bay, ready for rescue. Others inspected the docking gear in case they had to board a damaged vessel. Not all felt certain. In the quiet corners of the ship, some whispered doubts. A drifting vessel could be a trap. Pirates sometimes sent false signals to draw ships in. Unknown species might bring unknown risks. But Captain Mira's orders were clear. She would not turn away from a call for help, not when a life still flickered in the dark. When at last the broken ship came into view, the crew fell silent. On the main screen appeared a vessel unlike any human design. Its hull was cracked and bent, scars of battle across its surface. Pieces of metal floated near it, turning slowly in the starlight. No energy came from its engines. No light shone from its windows. It looked more like a tomb than a ship. Raylan's voice was low. Still one life signal, Captain. Weak but holding, Mira nodded. Open a wide scan. Search for hidden ships or weapons. The scan swept the area. The screen remained empty. No other ships moved near. No power readings stirred in the dark. It seemed this lone vessel truly was abandoned. Bring us closer, Mira ordered. The Aurora eased toward the silent vessel. As the distance shrank, the crew saw more detail. Scorch marks where weapons had struck, holes torn by fire, and shattered frames where escape pods had once been. Yet somehow part of the ship's body remained sealed, and inside that sealed space a life endured. Mira stood tall on the bridge. Prepare a boarding team. We will bring whoever is inside to safety. Her second officer frowned. Captain, are we certain? This ship could hold dangers we do not see. Mira's voice held no doubt. A single being waits in there. If we turn away, that being dies alone. That is not who we are. The crew heard her words and found strength in them. Though fear lingered, duty pressed stronger. The boarding team gathered gear, breathing masks, portable lights, and tools for sealed doors. The medical officer prepared stretchers and supplies. As the Aurora moved beside the alien vessel, docking clamps extended with a heavy clang. The two ships locked together, metal meeting metal. A hush fell over the crew as the airlock cycled. For the first time, humans would step into the unknown ship. On the bridge, Mira watched the monitors. She knew the moment was dangerous, but she also knew it was right. Somewhere beyond that airlock, someone had fought to live. Somewhere beyond that airlock, hope still flickered. The boarding team entered the alien vessel. Their lights cut through the darkness, showing narrow halls and broken panels. The air inside was thin, cold, and stale. Every step echoed as if the ship itself held its breath. At last, they reached the control chamber where a single figure sat slumped in a chair, barely moving. It was Caro, though the humans did not yet know his name. His eyes opened weakly at the sound of their footsteps. For a moment, he thought he was dreaming, for these beings looked unlike any he had ever seen. Yet they came with steady hands, not weapons raised, but tools of help. And so the silence of Caro's lonely vigil ended. The boarding team stood in silence for a moment as their lights fell on the alien figure. Caro looked fragile, his skin pale under the glow of the lamps, his body weak from hunger and cold. His large dark eyes blinked slowly as if unsure whether the humans before him were real or only a dream born from exhaustion. Lieutenant Raylan was the first to step forward. He raised his hands to show he carried no weapon. His voice was steady but soft. We are here to help. Do you understand? Caro tilted his head, confusion flickering across his face. The words meant nothing to him. Still, the tone was calm and the body language spoke of peace. He did not flinch when Raylan came closer. Instead, he tried to lift his arm as if to reach out, but his strength failed and the limb fell back against the chair. The medical officer knelt beside him. She scanned his body with a small device, shaking her head at the readings. His heart was weak, his body close to collapse. She pulled out a pack of nutrient fluid and pressed it gently into his hand, guiding him to drink. At first, Caro resisted. suspicious of the strange liquid, but his thirst overpowered his fear. He drank slowly, and warmth returned to his chest. Though he could not understand their speech, Caro sensed the humans were not enemies. Their movements were careful, their voices calm, their eyes watching him with concern rather than cruelty. For the first time in many days, his heart lifted with a spark of relief. "Captain," Raylan said through the comm, "we have one survivor. He is alive but very weak, requesting transport." On the bridge of the Aurora, Captain Mira closed her eyes for a brief moment of thanks. "Bring him aboard. Treat him with care. He is our guest." The boarding team prepared a stretcher. Caro resisted at first, fearful of leaving the only place he knew, even if it was broken and cold. The humans did not force him. They spoke gently, pointing to their ship through the airlock, showing him food and warmth. Slowly, with trembling steps, Caro agreed. His legs nearly failed him, so they guided him carefully, each step bringing him closer to hope. When he entered the Aurora, the change struck him at once. The air was fresh and strong. The lights shone with steady brightness. He felt warmth on his skin, something he had missed for so long that it almost brought tears to his eyes. He was led into the medical bay, where clean beds and soft voices surrounded him. Mira came to see him herself. She was tall, with steady eyes and a voice that carried quiet strength. She did not crowd him but stood at a respectful distance. She spoke gently, knowing he could not understand the words but hoping the tone would reach him. "You are safe here. We will help you." Caro watched her carefully. Her features were strange, different from any species he had known, but there was something honest in her gaze. He felt the weight of loneliness lift slightly, as if he no longer carried it alone. The medical officer placed a translator device near his bed. It was old technology, not always reliable, but it might bridge the gap. She tapped it, and the machine began to hum. Mira spoke again, slowly, each word measured. "Do you understand this?" The device whirred, then repeated her words in Caro's language, broken but clear enough. His eyes widened in shock. He sat up straighter, weak though he was. You speak my tongue," he whispered. The device caught his words and translated them back into the human language. Mira allowed herself a small smile. "Yes, we are trying. Can you tell us your name?" "Caro," he said, his voice shaking. "I am Caro. My people, they are gone. I am the last." Silence filled the room for a moment. The humans exchanged looks, the weight of his words sinking in. Mira's expression softened. "Caro, you are not alone anymore. You are with us now." Though the translator could not carry tone perfectly, Caro felt the meaning in her words. His chest tightened, not with fear, but with something he thought he had lost. Hope. Over the next hours, the crew cared for him. They gave him warm food, blankets, and medicine. He tried to understand their world, their voices, their kindness. In return, he told them pieces of his story, though the memories hurt. He spoke of the attack that shattered his fleet, the fire that consumed his people, and the silence that followed. The humans listened without interruption, their faces marked with quiet sorrow. Later, when Caro lay resting, he thought of the moment he had first seen the boarding team. At that time, he had believed he was dreaming. Now he knew it was real. He was alive because a human ship had chosen not to turn away. And though fear still lingered in his heart, another feeling began to grow stronger: trust. Life on the Aurora slowly settled after Caro was brought aboard. The crew worked with patience, teaching him simple words through the translator. Though the device was not perfect, it allowed enough understanding for them to share food, questions, and stories. Caro learned that humans valued teamwork above all. Every person had a role, and every role mattered. In return, Caro spoke of his people when his strength allowed. His voice carried sadness, but also pride. They had built great cities among the stars, strong fleets that sailed across many systems. Yet one enemy had ended it all. He described the swarm that came without warning, a vast force that consumed everything in its path. He spoke of fire, broken hulls, and silence. His words filled the crew with unease. Captain Mira listened carefully. She did not doubt him. The scars on Caro's ship had already told part of the story, but hearing it from his own mouth gave it weight. She knew the galaxy held dangers humans had not yet faced, and this was one of them. Still, Mira hoped the enemy was far away. She hoped Caro's warning belonged to the past, not the present. That hope broke one quiet shift when alarms rang across the bridge. The scanner officer cried out, "Multiple signals detected, approaching fast, unknown design." Mira's eyes narrowed. "Show them on screen." The main display lit up, revealing sharp, dark shapes moving through the void. Their hulls were jagged, their engines burning with a harsh light. They came in formation, swift and relentless. Even before Caro entered the bridge, Mira felt she knew who they were. Caro stepped forward, his face pale, his voice trembled. "It is them, the swarm. They found me." A hush fell over the bridge. Some crew members exchanged nervous glances. To face an unknown enemy was one thing, but to face the destroyers of an entire people was another. Mira stood firm. Shields up, engines ready. Prepare for evasive maneuvers. The Aurora was not a warship. Its weapons were limited, its armor light. Against a swarm fleet, it stood little chance in direct battle. But Mira's eyes held no fear. She had led her crew through storms before, and she would not abandon her duty now. The enemy ships drew closer. Their scanners swept across the Aurora, probing for weakness. Then, without hesitation, they fired. Beams of energy struck the shields, sending shudders through the hull. The lights flickered, and warning tones echoed through the ship. "Shields holding," Raylan reported, though his voice was tight. But not for long. Mira's mind worked fast. She did not think of fighting with brute strength. That was a battle they could not win. She thought of the terrain, the tools, the tricks her ship carried. Her strength had always been strategy, not force. "Caro," she said, turning to him. "You know their tactics. Tell me what they expect." Caro gripped the rail, his hands shaking. "They will surround you. They believe no one can escape their circle. Once trapped, they strike until nothing remains." Mira's eyes sharpened. "Then we must break the circle before it closes." She gave quick orders. "Helm, bring us toward the asteroid field on the starboard side. Weapons, prepare decoys. Engineering, channel extra power to thrusters." The Aurora veered sharply, racing toward a cluster of drifting rocks. The swarm ships followed, confident in their numbers. They fired again, beams cutting through space. But the Aurora twisted and spun, each movement just enough to evade a fatal strike. Inside the asteroid field, the humans played their game. The ship dropped signal beacons that confused enemy scanners. Some asteroids were rigged with charges, exploding when the swarm drew too close. Others were pulled by gravitic hooks, smashing against the enemy hulls. The crew worked in harmony, every hand steady despite the storm. Caro watched in awe. These humans did not match the swarm with greater strength, yet they created chaos that turned the enemy's power against itself. He had never seen such boldness in battle. Still, the fight was far from over. The swarm adapted quickly, shifting their formation to trap the Aurora deeper in the field. One strike shook the patrol ship hard, throwing sparks across the bridge. The shields dimmed to a faint glow. Rollin shouted, "Shields at 20%. "We cannot hold this for long." Mira's voice remained calm. "We do not need to hold forever. We only need to show them they cannot win easily." Her words carried across the crew, steadying their hearts. Even as the swarm pressed in, the Aurora struck back with cunning, planting traps, slipping through narrow gaps and refusing to fall. For Caro, the moment was unreal. He had believed the swarm unbeatable, their strength absolute. Yet here was a single human ship, smaller than any fleet vessel he had known, standing against them. Not only standing, but forcing them to bleed time and resources. The swarm had returned, but so had hope. The asteroid field stretched like a jagged wall across the stars. The Aurora twisted and turned among its obstacles, engines burning hot as the swarm ships followed. Each human hand on the controls moved with careful precision. Every decision counted. One wrong step could mean the end of the patrol ship and the loss of Caro. Captain Mira stood at the bridge, calm and focused. She studied the enemy formation, noting their patterns, their weaknesses, their blind spots. The swarm relied on numbers, overwhelming anything in its path. Humans, however, relied on thinking, strategy, and adaptation. Mira knew that intelligence could balance power. Raylan, activate the decoy drones, she ordered. The drones shot out from hidden bays, small metallic shapes that mimicked the signature of the Aurora. The swarm ships fired at them, beams slicing through asteroids instead of the patrol vessel. Sparks flew and a few enemy ships collided with rocks, shaking their hulls. Caro watched from behind the medical bay doors. His mouth was slightly open in disbelief. He had seen fleets of his own people fall to the swarm, entire ships destroyed in minutes. Yet here was a small human patrol ship creating chaos among giants. It was a sight he would never forget. "Captain," Raylan said, voice tense. "They are adapting. They are trying to surround us again." Mira nodded. "Good, let them learn. Every move they make against us costs them time and energy." The Aurora darted through narrow gaps, slipping past the tightest spaces the enemy could not follow. Explosive charges hidden in the asteroid field detonated in precise timing, sending shockwaves that damaged enemy hulls. The patrol ship remained unharmed, moving with a grace that seemed impossible for its size. In the control chamber, engineers worked tirelessly. They rerouted power to thrusters and shields, keeping the Aurora agile despite the strain on its systems. Lights flickered, alarms sounded, but the crew did not panic. They had been trained for moments like this. Every human knew their place, every hand knew the task. Caro could not take his eyes off the bridge screens. He saw calculations, predictions, and the quiet authority of Mira's leadership. He realized that humans had something unique. They could think fast, act together, and turn disadvantages into advantages. He had never imagined that such a small ship could fight in this way. "Medical, keep ready," Mira said. "We will need to move quickly if the swarm tries to board." The swarm was clever, learning from every maneuver. They adjusted formation, trying to trap the Aurora between two lines of attack. But Mira anticipated this. "Helm, go starboard 20 degrees. Engineering, release the magnetic pulse on my mark." A faint pulse moved through space, disrupting the enemy sensors. Some ships slowed, some fired blindly, and others collided with the edges of the asteroid field. The Aurora slipped through unharmed. Raylan let out a quiet laugh. "Captain, they did not see that coming." Mira allowed herself a small smile. "They will see many things, but they will never break us easily." The humans continued their strategy, using asteroids, decoys, and energy pulses to force the swarm into mistakes. It was not a battle of brute strength, but a battle of brains and coordination. For every enemy ship that adapted, the humans found another way to counter. Caro thought of his people and their fleets. They had relied on numbers, on firepower, on sheer force. That had worked until now. Humans, however, were different. They fought with courage, but also with creativity. Caro realized that this was why they could survive where others failed. Hours passed, though to Caro it felt like minutes. The patrol ship wove through the asteroid field, striking, dodging, and tricking the enemy. The swarm had underestimated the humans. Their confidence faltered. Their strategy, so simple and rigid, could not match the unexpected cleverness of the Aurora. Finally, a pause came. The swarm ships withdrew slightly, regrouping at the edge of the asteroid field. They had been damaged, slowed, and confused. Though they still threatened the patrol ship, they no longer held complete control. Mira took a deep breath. "It is not over, but we have shown them we are not easy prey. Keep your focus. We will lead them where we choose." Caro felt a mixture of awe and relief. He had expected the humans to fail against overwhelming power. Instead, he saw that hope, intelligence, and teamwork could overcome even the greatest odds. The Aurora continued to move through the stars, small but unbroken. The swarm still waited, but the humans had proven that they could challenge destiny itself. For Caro, the lesson was clear. He was no longer alone, and perhaps he could survive yet. And for the humans, the battle was only beginning. But their strategy had already turned the tide in unexpected ways. The Aurora drifted for a moment in the asteroid field, shields glowing faintly from the recent attacks. The swarm ships lingered at the edge, calculating their next strike. Inside the patrol ship, the crew worked quickly but calmly. Every crew member understood that even a small mistake could cost lives. Kara watched them with wide eyes, still learning what it meant to fight and survive with humans. Captain Mira moved along the bridge, checking each station. "Status report," she said. Raylan's fingers flew across the controls. "Shields are stabilizing, Captain. Engines are running at full efficiency. The swarm is confused by our maneuvers." The medical officer spoke softly. "Caro is stable for now, but he is still weak. He needs rest and food before he can move freely." Mira nodded. "Good. We cannot let the swarm break our will. Caro is a reminder of why we fight. Protect him, protect each other, and we continue." Caro looked around at the humans working together. He had never seen a crew act with such confidence even when danger pressed from all sides. He had believed that survival depended only on strength. Now he understood that intelligence, courage, and cooperation could turn the smallest ship into a force that even a mighty swarm feared. Suddenly, Rollin called out, "Captain, I am picking up signals from other star systems. The beacon on Caro's ship is still active." Mira turned to the screen. "Show me." The display showed faint pulses stretching across space. The humans had repaired part of the alien ship's systems before bringing Caro aboard. The energy from the beacon was spreading farther than anyone had expected. Other civilizations, once silent or hiding, could now detect it. Caro's voice trembled. Could they hear it? Could someone come? Mira placed a hand gently on his shoulder. "Yes, they can hear it, and they might come to help. You are not alone, Caro. Not anymore." The faint hope in Caro's eyes mirrored the feeling on the bridge. The humans realized that the beacon was not only a signal of distress but a spark of connection. It reminded them that life in the galaxy was not isolated. They could inspire others to act, just as they had chosen to act today. The swarm seemed unaware of this development. Their ships adjusted, preparing for another assault, but the humans had already set a new plan into motion. Mira spoke quietly but firmly to the crew. "We cannot defeat them all, but we can force them to retreat and buy time. Use the beacon. Let the galaxy know they are not invincible." Engineers worked to amplify the signal, feeding it through every transmitter on the Aurora and the alien vessel. The light from the displays reflected on the crew's faces, showing determination in every eye. They had become more than a ship. They had become a message. The swarm attacked again, but the humans were ready. The decoy drones moved like shadows among the asteroids, drawing fire. Shock pulses and magnetic fields disrupted enemy weapons, while the patrol ship darted through narrow spaces. One by one, the swarm ships faltered, crashing into rocks or each other. Caro watched the display and felt a thrill he had not known in weeks. These humans were not afraid. They faced a vast, terrifying force and yet found a way to fight back. He realized that survival was not just about being strong. It was about being clever, courageous, and willing to act even when the odds seemed hopeless. "Captain," Raylan said, voice filled with awe, "the swarm is breaking formation. They are pulling back." Mira's lips curved slightly. Not defeated, but they are learning that humans do not surrender easily. "That is enough for now. We hold the field and show the galaxy what is possible." Caro's heart beat faster. For the first time since his people fell, he felt hope that someone else could fight back. The humans had not only saved him, they had shown him that even in the darkest moment, courage could make a difference. The beacon continued to pulse, sending its signal across the stars. Somewhere out there, other civilizations were receiving it. The humans had lit a spark of hope that could spread, a reminder that life in the galaxy was not without defenders. As the Aurora moved out of the asteroid field, the crew remained alert, ready for any final strikes. Caro followed Mira's lead, learning from her calm confidence. He realized that courage was not the absence of fear, but the strength to act despite it. For the first time since he had drifted alone in space, Caro believed that survival was possible. Not only for him, but for others who had lost hope. The humans had proven that one ship, one crew, and one determined choice could change the course of events. The swarm had returned, but so had life, and hope now burned brighter than any star. The Aurora sailed steadily through space, leaving the shattered asteroid field behind. Caro sat near the window watching the stars drift past. Each light reminded him of the worlds he had lost, yet each also whispered a promise of survival. He had been alone for so long, but now he was part of something greater. Captain Mira walked past him, her presence calm but strong. She glanced at Caro, her expression gentle. "You have learned much," she said, "but there is still more ahead. The galaxy is large and there are many who need help. Are you ready?" Caro nodded slowly. "I am ready. I have seen what you can do. I want to help even if I am small and weak," Mira smiled. "It is not size or strength that matters. It is courage, thinking, and the choice to act. You have shown all of these already." The crew continued to work quietly around the ship. Engineers checked engines, weapons, and shields, ensuring the Aurora was ready for any danger. The medical officer stayed nearby Caro, helping him regain strength. Raylan sat at the helm, plotting a course for the nearest friendly systems where others might hear the beacon's signal. Even as the ship moved forward, the memory of the swarm lingered. Caro shivered slightly, remembering the overwhelming power of the enemy. He had once believed no one could survive against them, yet here he was, alive and learning from humans who had faced the impossible and endured. "Captain," Raylan said, pointing to the main screen, "the signals we sent with the beacon are being received. Other ships are responding. Messages of hope, requests for guidance. They are coming." Mira's eyes brightened. "Good. Let them know they are not alone. We may be small, but we can show the galaxy what determination and courage can do." Caro watched as distant lights appeared on the screen, small ships moving toward them from far systems. Some were scouts, others were patrols, and a few belonged to species he had never seen. All of them answered the beacon, drawn by hope and the promise of help. He realized that even one act of courage could spread across the stars and inspire others. "Why do you help others?" Caro asked Mira quietly. She paused, looking out at the endless black. "Because someone once helped us. Because leaving life behind in the void is not who we are. Courage is not only for ourselves. It is for those who cannot defend themselves." Caro thought of his people, lost in the void, and of the enemy that had destroyed them. For the first time, he did not feel despair. Instead, he felt a spark of purpose. He could act, he could contribute, and he could help others survive. The Aurora led the way, showing the new ships how to navigate through asteroid fields, how to avoid enemy traps, and how to use cunning instead of brute force. Mira taught the humans and Caro alike that cleverness and courage could overcome power. Each lesson spread hope further than any single ship ever could. As they approached a cluster of friendly systems, Caro finally felt the full weight of his journey. He had been alone, lost among stars with death almost certain. Now he was part of a crew that worked together, fought together, and inspired others. Humans had not only saved his life, they had shown him what hope looked like in the galaxy. The distant ships joined them, forming a small convoy. Caro felt a sense of pride, not for himself alone, but for the humans who had led him and for the chance to help others. The galaxy was vast, but it was no longer empty. Lives could be saved, civilizations could resist, and courage could spread further than fire or fear. Captain Mira turned to the bridge. "We continue forward. There will be challenges, but together we are stronger. One ship can light the dark, and one choice can change destiny." Caro smiled for the first time without fear. He knew that life had given him a second chance, not just to survive, but to be part of something greater. He was no longer the last of his kind. He was a survivor, a student of courage, and a messenger of hope. The Aurora glided through the stars, leading Caro and the new fleet toward distant worlds. Every light they passed reminded them of life worth saving. Every pulse of the beacon sent across space promised that no one was truly alone. And as the patrol ship moved onward, Caro understood the truth humans had shown him. Survival was not only about fighting. It was about helping, inspiring, and choosing to act when others might do nothing. The swarm might return, the galaxy might hold danger, but humanity had shown its strength. Courage and cleverness could light the darkness. And now a new beginning had arrived for Caro, the humans, and all those who would follow the beacon's call. In the vastness of space, hope was alive, and the future, though uncertain, shone brighter than ever.